call this Board of Education meeting of the Southwest Licking Board of Education to order. It is 7 p.m. in the Board of Education meeting room. I'd like to recognize all of our visitors, both in person and watching online. If you'd please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Jones, could you please call the roll?
Mrs. Engel.
Here.
Mrs. Moore.
Here.
Mr. Vincent.
Here.
Mr. Zani. And Mrs. Spindler.
Here. We have one public participation, Mr. Ford.
Good evening. My name is Corey Ford. I live at 701 Osborne Drive, Pataskala, Ohio. I'm here this evening to speak to you briefly about the policy for first reading EBD use of naloxone. Down in the 5th section of this policy, the last sentence reads under the parental notification of an EMS notification. The emergency medical services shall be notified for severe or life-threatening situations. I'm requesting that you strike for severe or life-threatening situations because it posits that somebody shouldn't be making that decision. And I think anytime that we are giving naloxone, a opioid or drug, overdose reversal drug to a student, it is a severe situation. To caveat on that more, in addition to protecting our students, striking that will also protect our staff. This policy cites down at the bottom, Ohio Revised Code 3715.04, and there are 3 conditions that must be met in order to offer immunity or a grant from liability for anybody that uses the naloxone. And the very last item on that is a requirement to notify EMS. So if a staff member that is trained used naloxone on a student or other staff member and EMS is not notified, they could be put at risk for legal jeopardy. And then the very last thing that I would ask for consideration is we have a policy on bullying and harassment, intimidation. At the very end of it, there is a provision for police and child protective services notifications. This policy does not require the notification of police. Again, if we have a student or staff member overdosing on a drug, we should probably start an investigation or at least notify the appropriate authorities to figure out where it came from to stop it from happening again. So these are my serious considerations. Please consider them as you talk about this policy this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Need a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second?
Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore.
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Request to speak on agenda items, Teamsters, Local 413, Southwest Licking Education Association. Thank you. Motion to approve minutes from the July regular meeting.
So moved. Second?
Any comments? Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Engel.
Yes.
Mrs. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 4, financial report.
Motion to approve? Second?
Mr. Jones?
Including the packet is the executive summary for end of July 31st. We're still working on budget estimates, so we have just actual numbers. The one key point is we did receive our first income tax settlement, which is our largest of the year, and it was actually lower than what we received last year. I put a note in there, so I reached out to the High Department of Income Tax and High Department of Taxation and said, can you look into it and find out why? And they came back with some interesting news. I guess we have one very wealthy taxpayer, which that last year made a payment with his income tax, school district income tax return of $200,000. And he made the payment in April last year, which means it would have been in our July 2022 settlement. Well, this year, they made the same $200,000 payment, which equals to $26.7 million salary, in March. So he made it in March, which means it came in our April instead of our July. So we got essentially $200,000 more in last fiscal year that we should have got this fiscal year if payments would have been consistent. With that, it would have been an increase if it wasn't for the timing of that one payment.
Okay.
So overall, if I looked at the last 3 years, it's still an 18% increase. So we're still increasing our income tax. It just this year's estimate will be a little bit lower because last year was higher than it should have been.
Okay.
Other than that, there was really nothing too exciting to talk about. Be glad to answer any questions you have.
I'm good.
Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 5A through N, personnel consent calendar.
Motion approval 5A through N.
Second.
Anything to note, Dr. Perkins?
The only thing I think to mention would be that we had a last-minute resignation of an administrator, but we were able to fulfill that with a quality candidate who's qualified at the WIS for this year. So I feel really good about that. And otherwise, nothing to talk about tonight.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 6, personnel A and B.
Motion to approve 6A and 6B.
Second?
Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Abstain?
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 7, business items A through H.
Motion approval 7A through H. Second.
So we'll just kind of run through these.
Sure.
The bus routes is just your annual approval of the routes in the district. And stop me if you have any questions. Resolution of practicality is another list of kids we're not transporting who have chosen to take in lieu of payment. We do have an overnight trip for cross country, not missing any school at the end of September. I did want to point out the policies for first reading, the Narcan policy. This was brought to mine and Mr. Tancheski's attention from Tirza, the school, the district nurse. So I do believe this is an important policy to have. I did want to make note that it talks about in the policy that the superintendent will select people to be trained. That will be the school nurse and the administration. So those are the only ones that will be receiving this training to actually administer it. So I thought that was, so teachers will not be doing that. Just, do you guys have any questions on that or keep going?
Do other school districts, are they doing that?
They do, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then the second policies for second reading, those are from last time. I don't think anything was substantial the last time. If you have any other questions on that, the data and record retention, we can talk about it. We have an I am bondless agreement. Mr. Davis is here if you guys have any questions about that. Do you want to talk about the abatement, Rick?
Sure. So this is abatements for Red Rock 3, which is right there before you get to the village of Kirksville, on the north side of 40. So we negotiated with Red Rock. So essentially, we're getting a 30% payment in lieu of taxes, which is significant since now they can get a 75% abatement without coming to us. But they're actually going to take a net 70% abatement to work with the school district. So we're getting the 30% payment in lieu of taxes. We're getting $10,000 to offset legal fees, and we're getting 50% of the income tax collection over that site, which Kirksville is only 1%, so that's not a huge amount of money, but we would get that. Only thing with this one is these are 15 years and it's done. You know, most of them there's a JAD, we can go 30 years. These are going to be 15 years and then we're done. So this is one we talked about, and they've been very cooperative in working with the school district. And then AEP is this basically they had to do some reworking of the electric into the building, so this allows them room to access, put lines in, and be able to come on our property and fix stuff if they need to, similar to what we've done in other buildings.
It'll be interesting to see with, I know it was just a draft proposal, but what are they calling it? The second outer belt. It almost had to come in right through Krugersville,
Yeah.
so it'd be interesting to see
really?
with the Red Rock. Have you heard anything else about the other abatement?
No, it's been completely silent. Nothing from our attorney, nothing from Harrison Township, which is
I
where it
know
was left.
that it was mentioned at a fire district meeting that it was the schools that was holding it up. So I reached out to a couple of people, Dave Engel being one of them, to let him know that we met with the developer, told him we're ready to sign, it's not us, and he was gonna pass that along.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Is the abatement, is that tentative, or do you know that they actually, have they got to they've got buildings coming in and so on and so forth, so it.
I know they're gonna build, I think, between $1 million and 1.5. I think the drawing is like 2 buildings.
Gotcha, okay,
So-
okay, so it is the,
Yeah, I think they're probably gonna be spec buildings, unless the reason they have tenants in
Yeah.
place already, but
yeah, no, but there are actually buildings, the developer is going to build buildings
Yes.
already, so.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Red Rock has built at least 3, I think. This is their third time, yeah,
Okay.
in our school district.
Going with the bus routes, do we have the same number or more this year?
We have more
Okay.
this year. Yep.
More routes, more buses, more kids on buses.
We have more kids on buses.
Yes.
More drivers, more routes, yes.
Okay.
So it'll take a few days to get kinks out. They were in by 5:04 tonight, which was pretty good. 5 o'clock is the goal, but that was only a portion of the kids, so take a few days to get the kinks out, of course.
All right. Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes,
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 8B, Aetna Joint Economic Development Board appointment, I believe.
Motion 8A.
Second?
So this is just a recommendation to have Candy serve on the Joint Economic Development Board again, if she wants that recommendation.
this position comes from City of Newark, so this is kind of a formulary, I believe, for this board to agree to that. So the City of Newark appoints the spot, so.
This is the Amazon one, correct?
Yeah, and this is Jed Z 1 and 2,
Okay.
and which Jed Z 1 is Amazon, correct?
All right.
I don't believe any of the other JED's boards have a seat for the district, but this one does, and the city council and mayor of Newark actually make the appointment on that, so.
All right.
Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Abstain?
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 9, treasurer's items A through C.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Jones?
A is donations, as always, we appreciate those to the school district. B is statement of purposes, as we're getting started new school year, you'll see a bunch of these for the next 2 or 3 months before we get caught up. And C is new fund, we received a new grant this year, early childhood education grant for $170,000. Basically, it's required to be in Fund 439, we've never had this fund before, so in order to establish it, I need the board's approval to do so.
Mr. Davis can speak additionally on that if you'd like additional information.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yep, so this grant has been around for a while, but this is the first year we've qualified for it. So Ohio extended their standards a little bit, so Mackenzie Adelman did a lot of work and put together a proposal, and we got approved for it. So essentially allows us to add on more staff, so we can serve more kids out of preschool.
Nice work
Yeah.
on getting this funding.
Awesome.
And nice work on the PTO.
Right?
Yeah.
That is
Nice.
phenomenal. I'm buying more mums.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 10, superintendent's comments.
Okay, so obviously today was a great day. First day back with part of the kids. And the other good portion tomorrow, and then Monday we'll kick off everybody. 6 through 12 we'll have everyone tomorrow, but the rest of the district. So overall it seemed really smooth, happy kids for the most part. Few tears from the elementary level, but that's to be expected. Transportation went well, so again, a few kinks to work out. Hopefully by the end of next week they'll get all that stuff sorted out. We're still enrolling. I was hoping to have enrollment numbers tonight, but I'm going to wait till next month when the withdrawals and enrollments balance out, and I feel like I can present to you an actual factual-based option of where we're at with our current enrollment. So they're still coming. And let's see, so a couple of positive things. Obviously, we have a street fair booth, so we want everyone to come visit that. We do have renderings from Garmin and Miller of the new elementary, other buildings, the athletic site, so that's nice for the community to see. We were able to participate with NBC4 Stuff the Backpack initiative. So we were given 15 boxes of backpacks and supplies that were dropped off to the building. So that's fantastic for our kids that need that as well. Let's see what else I want to talk about. Well, I'm going to share these. So I'm going to go ahead and pass one of these around. So in preparing for all of the changes in the district, as well as our growth, developments, what's happening with all the building projects, I've decided I'm going to put out a once-a-month communication. This is going to be called the Community Compass, and I will present it each month to the board. First on Thursday, and then Friday it will go out to the community in various different formats of communication styles, so everyone hopefully can get this. It'll just touch on different things happening throughout the district. As you can see, this one talks a little bit about our what's some of the things going on at the stadium, the concession stand project, the asphalt, the new fencing. Then gave a little bit about a couple of the big developments, how many are coming and how many, right now the big ones that are currently in various phases. And then at the bottom, you'll see two things, name that elementary, and then also kind of talking about our new building. So explaining what's coming, and then also seeing if anybody in the community has a great idea for a name, because we need to figure that out. So I think this will give everybody an opportunity if they want to submit something, if they have a great idea. So this will be emailed to our families, shared on social media, and I'm working with the post as well. I'm hoping to get it in there on a monthly basis too, to hit a different targeted group of people. So I think this will be a nice way to share some things going on in the district in a simplistic format. So I wanted to share that with you tonight. Are there any questions on that, or?
So with the naming, I wasn't present at the last meeting, but I was able to watch online. What's our timeline on that? People are going to submit suggestions, which I'm excited about. I like seeing that. And then are you going to kind of go through them between now and the next meeting, or is our
Yes.
timeline beyond that?
No, it's not beyond that, because as we talked about today in our building project meeting, the plans are being created with the name. So if we don't change it quickly, we're going to pay to change it, which just seems silly and a waste of money.
Yeah,
So we
that's
want to get this taken care of. So I'll put this out there tomorrow. We'll get some names, get some ideas, bring them to the board at the next meeting, make a decision, and then we can go ahead and let Garmin and Miller know, so we can move forward with all those
Great.
plans.
You going to put some of these out at the street fair booth?
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that
Awesome.
tomorrow. That's a great idea. Thank you. And next month, I know this is a short board meeting, but next month we'll be back with building presentations as well as continuous improvement plans.
Awesome.
So that will be coming back to you next month.
Okay.
And that is it for me.
Cool. All right, item 11, request to speak on non-agenda items, Teamsters Local 413, Southwest Licking Education Association.
Good evening.
Hello.
I am Paula Ball, president of the SLE, Southwest Licking Education Association, and I had two things I wanted to mention to the board and audience tonight. The first thing is, I have not gotten a chance to speak to Dr. Perkins about a number of concerns regarding our spec ed numbers, supports, classrooms. If you recall, I was very excited that the district's plan was to make sure we had room for growth based on our numbers the last few years, so that we have seats for when students identify, we have spaces for them. So I spoke to Dr. Perkins briefly enough that she said we will be working on it and see, because she obviously has to check on these things, and I need more information as well, but I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention because the teachers are very concerned that we have the supports we need for those students, and that we are prepared for new students to become identified in the course of the year or move into the district. So it's a high concern for us. The second thing I wanted to mention is, if I wasn't an English teacher, I would be a social studies teacher. Like I was basically told by my college advisor coaches or social studies teachers. So I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to elections. So I'm actually really excited that we have two school board seats coming up, and we have 5 candidates. So I think that's really exciting to have people involved in our school board. SLE will be hosting a Meet the Candidate night, kind of a combination town hall, kind of debate, like throw a question, every candidate can answer. So I'm hoping, we have 4 of our candidates here tonight, so I'm hoping that you all can come. I will send you a more formal invite, but it is September 12th. The doors will open at 6. We're thinking 6:30 to 8 with like opening statement. Each candidate can give an opening statement. And then we're going to collect questions from community, students. The student council is going to be involved if they would like. Obviously, teachers, staff members. And then Marty Dolman has agreed to be our moderator. He did it a number of years ago, also a social studies geek. And so we're really excited about that. So we're hoping it'll be a good chance for our community to come out, because I think choice is always a good thing to have. So I'm really excited about that. So I wanted to formally let everyone know that is our plan. It will be at the high school in the auditorium. So we'll get to also showcase our beautiful auditorium if anybody has not seen it yet. So, all right. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, item 12, closing item is adjournment.
Motion adjournment?
Second.
Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Mrs. Engel?
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler?
We are adjourned at 7:21 p.m.